Vanakkam. Hi, hello. So, welcome to the fourth topic of Heritage of Tamils. Here we'll talk about the classical text of Tamil. So, after the Sangam period, about 300 CE, comes a dark age which we call Sangam Maruviya Kalam. Maruviya means it's changed, degraded, or something like that. This period goes from about 3rd century to the 6th century. This is marked by foreign dynasties, foreign rulers usurping the Tamil kings and dominating the Tamil lands. So the Sangam age is typically considered as a golden age, both for the history, cultural period of the land as well as for literature. So that is where we have the Sangam literature and Tolkappiyam. So that is considered as a golden age. Whereas after that, following that, there is a interim period which is called as a dark age. Initially, we call this as dark age because we didn't had enough evidence, enough information about this period. The only information we know that there were, of course, some Tamil texts that were produced during this period, but the Tamil dynasties, the traditional Moovendar, the three emperors of the Tamil dynasties, Cherar, Cholar, and Pandiyar, they were not dominant. Whereas another dynasty was very dominant called the Kalappirar, Kalabras, and they are considered to be from the north, from somewhere from Andhra or Karnataka. Their lineage is debated still now. But nowadays, now we have a lot of information, a lot of archaeological finds and other inscriptions, mentions of these Kalappirar, Kalabras. So we know quite something about them, but not very much. So still, the information is dark, but not very dark. So this is the period where Tamil was given the backstage. The Kalappiras seem to have patronized Prakrit and other Sanskrit-based languages, North Indian languages. So they put Tamil to the back burner. But still, this period also saw very important Tamil literature. So poets were not suppressed. So poets were producing their work. In fact, this period is where we get the Padinan Kizhkanakku Noolgal. So they are majorly seen as Needhi Noolgal, didactic works on ethics, values, and all. In fact, even today, when an average person thinks about Tamil literature, they think of all this philosophy, all these didactic works in Tamil. So that is created in this period. So the Sangam text, the Ettu Togai and Pattu Pattu, those 18 texts are called as Mel Kanakku, Padinan Mel Kanakku Noolgal, 18 greater texts. Whereas the text produced during this period, Sangam Maruviya Kalam, the post Sangam period, are called Kizhkanakku Noolgal, 18 lesser texts. Now the designation greater or lesser, once again, is not about quality. So like I said, for major literature and minor literature, Perilakyam, Citrilakyam, this is not about quality, this is about size. So the greater text, the Sangam text, as we saw already, they are anthologies and long songs, Ettu Togai and Pattu Pattu, 8 anthologies and 10 needles. The 8 anthology, on the average, they contain like 200 to 400 songs per anthology. The 10 needles were long songs, about from 103 for Mullai Pattu to 782 for Madurai Kanji. So long songs on the average, they are about some 10-15 lines long, you can say. Whereas if you look at the Padinan Kizhkanakku Noolgal, which we will do shortly, the next slide we will do that. The Padinan Kizhkanakku Noolgal, on the average, they contain about some 40 to 50 verses. There are, of course, exceptions. Tirukkural is typically classified among the Padinan Kizhkanakku Noolgal. Tirukkural, as many of us know, contains 1330 verses, but those verses are only of 2 lines. Kural Venpa, only couplets, 2 lines are there. But on the average, these texts contain 40 verses per text, per book. And most of them, almost all of them are Venpa songs, which typically has a length of 4 lines. Whereas the Sangam literature were composed in what we call the Agavalpa or Asiriyapa meter, which typically runs to tens of lines, if not hundreds of lines. And the Sangam period had epics. So we see indications that at least Ramayana, Mahabharata were there in Tamil, even in the Sangam period itself. Because one of the Sangam poet is called Bharadam Padiya Perundevanar, which means Perundevanar who has sung Mahabharatam in Tamil. So there was a Mahabharatam in Tamil, and we see certain scenes depicted in Purananuru about from Ramayana, which is not found in original Valmiki Ramayana, which means there was a Tamil epic with its unique scenes and all. So, but they are lost now. So lost to time, so we cannot retrieve them. But the post-Sangam period saw the most important epics, Kapiyangal in Tamil, the Silappadigaram and Manimekalai, which are considered as the first epics in Tamil. So again, the first extant epics in Tamil. So the Sangam period and post-Sangam period has very distinct characteristics for each other, which marks the difference between them. The difference in the geopolitical situations reflecting in the literature. So that is what is literature. Literature should reflect the contemporary situations of the land. Even now we are doing that. So that is what is happening here also. Let us take a look at this, the text from the post-Sangam period, which are called Padinen Kizhkanakku Noolgal. Padinen is 18. Kizhkanakku. Kanakku here refers to book text. Kizhkanakku is lesser text. So Sangam literature is male kanakku. This is Kizhkanakku. So 18 lesser text. So the ordering here, even the ordering I've shown for Ettu Togai, Pattu Pattu, these are all based on certain Venpas. There are Venpa verses which codify these texts. So they are mnemonics. Venpa verses serving as mnemonics to remember these texts. So at the end, I'll show you those Venpa. So there is a Venpa to remember the Ettu Togai, there is a Venpa to remember the Pattu Pattu, there is a Venpa to remember these 18 texts. So the 18 texts, we are mentioning them in that particular order. The order they appear, they mention in that particular mnemonic Venpa. So the 18 lesser texts are these. Naladiyar. Naladiyar is an anthology, the only anthology in 18 lesser texts, Padinen Kizhkanakku Noolgal. Naladiyar is said to be composed by Jain monks, Samana Turavigal. There are 400 verses in Naladiyar. All of these are Venpa songs. All these 18 lesser texts are made of Venpa, except one text, which I mention later. So Naladiyar is made of 400 Venpa songs, each composed by one Jain monk. So one Jain monk composed one Venpa song, and it's collected as Naladiyar. So Nalu Adi, 4 line. Nalu Adi, 4 line. So that is the name of the book. Each song is a 4 line. So Naladiyar. The R is a respective marker. So we say Naladiyar, which is a didactic work, which is somewhat similar to Tirukural. So this text is very similar to Tirukural in structure, the organization. So it reflects Tirukural a lot, and also giving such a beautiful message for life. So that is Naladiyar. And Nanmani Kadigai, second text is Nanmani Kadigai, which is composed by a poet called Vilambi Naganar. Again, this is a didactic work, which is about 104 verses are found now. Again, the name means Nanmani Kadigai. So it is like Kadigai is a jewel where there are 4 gems. So Nal, Nangu, 4, Mani is a gem. So Nanmani Kadigai is a jewel with 4 gems. So each verse in this text contains 4 wise ideas or concepts. Ideas which is useful for life, values, ethics, like that. And the third text is Inna Narpadu, composed by a poet called Kabilar. Now, there is a Sangam poet by the name Kabilar. So this is another poet here by the name Kabilar. So this is a very frequent occurrence in Tamil scenario, where you will see the same names across centuries. So obviously they are different poets, but with the same name. So obviously there are so many Avvayars, so many Kabilar, Baranar, Nakirar. The idea is these are all initially Sangam poets who are all very much respected among the Tamil community. So obviously other poets later day poets also took those names. Maybe they are given these names, their parents themselves gave these names to the children, or when they become poet, they would have chosen these names as a pseudonym, Punai Payar. So either way, we get same names across centuries, but obviously not the same person. So Sangam literature was written somewhat in the first century BC to first century CE, in that range. But these are written somewhere in the 4th century or 5th century. So obviously 200-300 years gap. So the same person couldn't have lived that much. So obviously there are different people here. That is why I put the star to mention that. So this Kabilar is not the Sangam poet Kabilar. So different Kabilar here. Inna Narpadu. Inna means something that is not pleasing. So something that creates a trouble. The not pleasing. That is called the Inna. So Inna Narpadu is a text with 40 Venpa verses. In each of the verse, Kabilar mentions 4 Inna, undesirable situations or things. So this is not good, that is not good, like that. He mentions that. So we learn from that. Inna Narpadu. And another text which is like complementary for this text, Inna Narpadu. Another text is there called Iniyave Narpadu, which is composed by a poet called Budam Sendanar. So this is also a 40 Venpa verses. Here, this is the opposite of Inna Narpadu. So Inna is something undesirable, unpleasant, whereas Iniyave is something pleasant, Inidu, sweet. So Iniyavai is a pleasant thing or a pleasant situation. So Iniyavai Narpadu in its verses, it lists in each verse 4 or 3 Iniyavai, good things, sweet things are listed. So that is Iniyavai Narpadu. So we can read this Inna Narpadu and Iniyavai Narpadu like complementary to each other. So this is not good, don't do this, don't be in this situation. This is good, do this, be in this situation. Like that, poets are advising us. So we have Inna Narpadu and Iniyavai Narpadu. Kar Narpadu. So this is a Agam literature. So majority of the 18 lesser text are didactic, but some of them are Agam and Puram are also there. So Kar Narpadu is a Agam literature. So Kar Narpadu is about Mullai Tinai. Like in Sangam literature, we have Mullai Patu. This is based on Mullai Tinai. So Mullai Tinai is about married life. I already mentioned that in Mullai Patu. So Mullai Tinai is married life. So the husband will go outside for his work or for some task. So he will fix a date. I will return before the rainy season comes. Because in those days, people don't travel during the rainy season. It will not be nice. Epidemics will be spreading and all. So they will typically come back before the rainy season. So the husband parted the wife saying that he will come back before the rainy season. But the rainy season is appearing to be starting. But the husband is not coming back. So the wife starts to lament. That is what is called Mullai Tinai. So the friend of the wife, the heroine is the wife. So the friend of her, she will be consoling the wife, saying that it's the rainy season has not fully come yet. It's only the starting. Don't worry. So your husband will come before the rainy season. So Kar Narpadu contains 40 verses depicting various situations in this particular scenario. So it shows the wife lamenting, the heroine consoling her, the friend consoling the heroine, and the husband who is returning. So his haste, he's telling his charioteer, chauffeur, please go fast. No, I want to see my wife quickly. I want to reach home before the rainy season comes because I promised my wife. So that sort of verses, monologues, like this is similar to the Sangam literature. There are monologues, but these are written in Venpa songs, unlike Sangam literature, which is written in Asiriyapa. So Kar Narpadu is such 40 beautiful Venpa verses about this Mullai Tinai and different Turais in that, which is composed by a poet called Kannan Kutanar. And Kalavadi Narpadu. This is the only Puram literature in 18 lesser text. So Kalavadi Narpadu, which is composed by Poigayar. This Kalavadi, Kalam means field. Here the Kalavadi means battlefield. So poets, when they say Kalam Padadal, they sing about the field. There are 2 fields poet sings about. One is the battlefield, another one is the farmland. So Air Kalam, Por Kalam, we say. So this is Por Kalam, battlefield. What happened is there was a war between a Chera king and a Chola king, Cholan Chenganan and Cheran Kanaikal Irumborai, in which the Chera king was defeated. Now there are various accounts of this battle, and there is even one song in Purananuru which whose footnote mentions these kings and the battle. So there are different accounts, but so according to this particular text, what happens? The Chola king arrests the Chera king and captures him as a prisoner of war and keeps him as prisoner. This poet Poigayar, who was originally patronized by the Chera king Kanaikal Irumborai, so he comes to the rescue of his king. So he comes to the Chola king, the victor, and praises his battle. So he sings this text, Kalavadi Narpadu. So he sings 40 Venpa verses praising the battle victory, the battlefield. So he describes the battlefield. He describes the aftermath of the battle. So thereby praising the victory, valor, the greatness of the army of the Chola king and all those things in 40 verses. So the Chola king becomes very pleased about this text, and he asks the poet to ask whatever he desires as a gift. It's a tradition for kings to bestow gifts to poets when they are pleased with their songs. So in the same way, the Chola king asked the poet to ask for whatever he desires, and the poet Poigayar, he asks his king Kanaikal Irumborai to be released from being a prisoner of war and his land being returned to him. And the Chola king abides by that and releases the king and returns his land to him. So that is the anecdote on this text. But the same war is mentioned in Purananuru also. There the footnote says the Chola king captures the Chera king and make him prisoner, and in the prison he was not treated well. The Chera king was not treated well, so he refuses to eat or drink anything, and he passes away in the prison itself. So he sacrifices his life, putting his manam, we say, self-respect much before his life and he loses his life. That is the note we get from Purananuru, but this text is slightly differing from that. So researchers are researching on that. But this text, Kalavari Narpadu, is again a very beautiful collection of 40 Venpa songs which describe the battlefield of the Chera king. And Aindinai Aimbadu. So there are a bunch of Agam songs like Kar Narpadu. But unlike Kar Narpadu, which is in one particular Tinai, Mullai Tinai, these all the other Agam songs, Agam text in Padinen Kizhukanakku, lesser text, they are having songs in all the Tinais. So there are 5 Tinai in Tamil: Kurinji, Mullai, Marudam, Neidal, Palai. So these songs, they are all equally distributed in among these 5 Tinais. So Aindinai Aimbadu is a collection of 50 Venpa verses. The work is composed by a poet called Maran Purayanar. So here there are 50 verses, there are 5 Tinai. So each Tinai is given 10 Venpa, 10 verses. So 5 into 10 is 50. So 10 verse per Tinai. So that's called Aindinai Aimbadu. 50 verses in the 5 Tinai. Such beautiful work. So among the Agam literature in Padinen Kizhukanakku, this one is my most favorite work. Aindinai Aimbadu is my favorite work as far as I have read. These Venpa songs are so beautiful, so nuanced. So the poet uses a technique called ellipsis. Whatever he wants to say, he will not say directly. So he will say that in an indirect manner. So that is a very nice text actually. And the next one is very similar, called Tinai Modi Aimbadu. Again, Tinai Aindinai. So Tinai Modi is verses on the Tinai. So again, Aimbadu 50. So collection of 50 Venpa verses. Again, 10 verses for each of the 5 Tinai. This is composed by Kannan Chendanar, another poet. And then the 9th text is called Aindinai Elubadu. Elubadu is 70. So once again, verses on the 5 Tinai. But now there are 70 songs, 70 verses. So 14 verses per Tinai. So each of the 5 Tinai gets 14 verses. So 14 into 50 is 70. Aindinai Elubadu. This was composed by a poet called Muvadiyar. And then similarly, we have Tinai Malai Nutri Aimbadu, 150 songs. This is composed by a poet called Kani Medaviyar. He is the only poet who have composed one more work in Padinen Kizhukanakku. You can see that here in the slide. So Tinai Malai, Tinai, again Tinai refers to the 5 Tinai: Kurinji, Mullai, Neidal, Marudam, Palai. Malai is a garland. So like all these Venpas verses are connected like a garland. So that's called Tinai Malai. This is a common way of referring to text. So this word Malai is used in many contexts. So here a collection of songs will be referred to as Malai, as if each of the song, each of the verse is a gem and a pearl or a gem, and they are connected into a garland or a necklace or something. So Tinai Malai Nutri Aimbadu, which is 150. So there are 150 songs. We also get some 3 more songs here. So each Tinai gets 30. Some of the Tinais get 31 songs. There are 3 Tinais with 31 songs. So there are 153 songs actually. So maybe later day interpolations, Idai Chorugal or something like that. But once again, very good, very nice songs about the Ain Tinai, the 5 Tinais landscape classification of Tamil Agam literature. So those are the Agam literature, and there's last one is there. We'll come to that. Next is Tirukural. Now, Tirukural, I think I don't have to explain that a lot, but I should do as a duty for this video. I will do that. But Tirukural is the most famous literature among Tamil literature. It's very world famous. It is somewhere ranking in the 44th or 45th place among the most translated books. So it's translated to more than 50 languages across the globe, and it's widely read. It's one of the widely read text even now, even today. So even today, many people will quote Tirukural. There are a lot of learning we can directly apply to our life from Tirukural. So Tirukural is such a wonderful work. So Tirukural is again a didactic work composed by the famous Thiruvalluvar. Thiruvalluvar is actually again a pseudonym, so it's not his actual name. Tirukural is classified into 3 books. Again, they are called Pal. Pal means classification. So we call them as Arathupal, Porutpal and Kamathupal. Arathupal refers to virtues. Porutpal, the word translates to wealth. Porul means wealth. But Porutpal talks about statecraft. So statecraft means it talks about how a king should be, how a minister should be, how the general people should be, what are all the ethics and values one should follow, what are all the things one should gain for his own life to be better, your life to be better in a society. All those things are discussed in Porutpal. And we have a Kamathupal, which is like Agam literature. So there the love between two people, a man and a woman, is discussed. Again, that is done in two sections, Kalaviyal, Karpiyal, like we saw in Tolkapiyam. So Kalaviyal is clandestine love, Karpiyal is married love. So Kalaviyal, Karpiyal is there. So the love between the love, separation, parting, meeting, everything, the emotions connected with them, they're all beautifully laid down by Thiruvalluvar in Thirukural. So such a wonderful text and a very important text in Tamil literature and a very widely read, appreciated text in Tamil literature. So a lot of English translations are available, and in Project Madurai you can find 3 such English translations. I will give the links in the description. So I once again suggest you read Tirukural. Tirukural is very easy to read and approach, but Tirukural couplets are so deep that they can be interpreted in many levels, in many ways, even with many biases. What happened? People interpret Tirukural according to their own biases, according to their own culture, sect, religion, whatever it is. So Tirukural is such a deep composition. So one should definitely read Tirukural. Especially if you are a Tamil person, you should at least read Tirukural once in your life. So that is Tirukural. Tirukural stands as a sort of a bridge between Sangam literature and this Padinen Kizhukanakku Noolgal, because Padinen Kizhukanakku, as I said, is belonging to the post-Sangam era, which is about 300 to 600 CE, common era. But Tirukural is typically dated to 1st century BCE, before common era. So that is sort of belonging to the Sangam literature, but unlike Sangam literature, it is composed in Venpa songs. But unlike the typical format of a Venpa, which is typically 4 lines, Tirukural is composed with a new format called Kural Venpa, which is only 2 lines, couplets in English we call them. So Tirukural is unique in so many ways, but also is fitting well with Tamil literature in so many other ways. It's a bridge between Sangam literature, Sangam period and post-Sangam period. It's a bridge between ancient literature and modern times. So Tirukural is very suitable for modern times also. So such a wonderful work. So you can read about Tirukural here. And I also have a blog, Quora, so where I'm talking about the Tamil literature, and I have made a dedicated post for Tirukural. So I'll again give the link here. You can read that post if you want. Next is Thiri Kadugam. Thiri is 3. So Thiri Kadugam is the 3 spices, chukku, which is dried ginger, milag, pepper, and tippili, long pepper. So these are Thiru Kadugam, 3 spices used as medicine. Like this text, Thiri Kadugam, all the verses in the text contains 3 principles, 3 didactic principles, which is good for life. So Thiri Kadugam, the ingredients is good for the stomach and body health. This text is good for life. That's why it's called the Thiri Kadugam, composed by a poet called Nalladanar, containing 100 verses, 101 verses here. And then the next text is called Achara Kovai. Acharam is what you have to follow, what you are supposed to follow in life. Acharam is the principles, protocols, tradition, orthodoxy. So this is how you are supposed to do things. For example, in our country, in Tamil culture, or generally in India, or generally in the East, we don't wear slippers to the house. We have to take bath before doing some auspicious work. And there are rules on how to take bath. So those things are laid down. So those things in those period. So this book is some 1800, 1700 years old. You remember that? 1500 at least. So in those period, whatever the Tamil people followed. So those rules for everyday living, Acharam, that is called. So that is laid down in this book. Achara Kovai. Kovai means connection, connected, right? So a string of verses which talk about the acharam, discipline, tradition, or orthodoxy, or protocol. So that is acharam. So Achara Kovai lays down all those rules. So there are 100 verses here. Some of these may not make sense in today's world. In today's, there are a lot of change. All our traditions have changed a lot. So some of these may not make sense much. And of course, all these ancient literature are patriarchal. So that is also there. So you should remember that while reading this text and interpreting them and applying them to our life now, always there. So whatever is applicable, we can take. At least we can get an idea how our ancestors lived. So that is Achara Kovai, composed by a poet called Peruvayin Mulliyar. 100 Venpa verses are there. Next is another interesting and beautiful work called Paramuri Nanuru. Paramuri is an adage or a proverb in Tamil. All culture, language has these idioms, adages, proverbs. The proverbs, generally proverbs are very beautiful things because proverbs are not composed by poets. Proverbs are created and circulated by ordinary people in ordinary life situations. So they use simple ideas, simple words, but convey a very strong message. And Tamil proverbs are also having that characteristics. Tamil proverbs are also very poetic. One thing I always admire about Tamil is its collection of proverbs. Tamil proverbs they show poetic nature, but they are made of simple words, simple ideas and concepts, but they express a very profound knowledge. And often these Tamil proverbs refer to the two great Ithikasams, epics of India, Ramayana and Mahabharata, and other epics, other concepts, ideas, stories, hearsay stories, Sevivadi Kadaigal. So those are all also frequently referred in Paramodi. So such 400 such proverbs, adages or proverbs. So the author, Munrurai Arayanar, he takes such proverbs and composes Venpa verses for each of the proverb. So what happens is each of the verse will end with a proverb. In the end of the verse, he would have embedded a proverb. The previous 3 lines of the verse, they will be talking about an example or explanation or a situation explaining the proverb. So another very nice work. So it's sort of like Proverbs illustrated or Proverbs explained, something like that. So Paramodi 400 songs with each with one adage or proverb in it. And next one is called Siru Panja Moolam. Moolam is root. There are 5 roots traditionally used in the Siddha medicine, which are Kandangatri, Siru Valutunai, Siru Malli, Perumalli, Nirunji. So these 5 roots are used to prepare medicine. Like that, this text, which is called the Siru Panjamulam, this is called the Siru because it's made of small Venpa verses. So Siru Panjamulam, it contains, it's supposed right now, whatever available is 97 verses. There might be 100 or there might be 150. We don't know. We lost those manuscripts. So 97 were retrieved. So these 97 verses, each of them contain 5 or sometimes less than 4 or 3. So basically 5 ideas, 5 voice ideas, concepts, didactic nature. So which are like the 5 roots in Siddha medicines, which are very good for the body, which cures illness, diseases. These verses containing or made of 5 ideas, this will cure our ignorance. So that is the idea of the text name. So Siru Panja Moolam, composed by a poet called Karyasan. Then next one is called Mudumoli Kanji. This was composed by a poet from Madurai. See, Madurai is the place where the third Sangam happened. So Madurai is a very important place for Tamil literature. So Madurai Kudalur Kidar is name. So Mudumoli Kanji, this is the only text in the Padinan Kizhkanakku collection which is not made of Venpa. All the other 17 works are made of Venpa only. But this is not a Venpa verse. By the way, if you want to know what is a Venpa, what is a Asiriyarpa, I once again have certain answers I have given in Quora explaining what is Venpa, Asiriyarpa and all. I'll also share the link for them with this description, video's description. You can check out those things. So this is not a Venpa. This is a collection of lines, so which we can classify as a Kalipa. So a Kalipa is another meter in Tamil. So basically it starts with Argali Ulagathu Makkalukkellam. So for all the people of the world which is surrounded by ocean, roaring ocean. There are 10 such verses. Each verse contains 10 lines. So there is a starting line which is common, Argali Ulagathu Makkalukkellam, and then there are 10 lines in each verse. Each 10 talks about one thing. So for example, there is Alagu Pattu. So it talks about beauty. There is Kalvi Pattu. So that talks about education, importance of education. Like that it talks. So each 10 line talks about one concept. So 10 concepts, important concepts are discussed. That is what called Mudumoli Kanji. Mudumoli is something like proverb or adage. So Mudumoli, Mudu here means wise. So wise language, language of the wise people, like that, right? So advice from wise people. Kanji is actually one of the Puram Tinai, which deals with the didactic works. Like we had Madurai Kanji in Pattupattu, which is a long advice given to the Pandya king by Mangudi Mardanar. Here, Mudumadi Kanji is advice given by Madurai Kudalur Kizhar to the people of the world. So you should know about these things like that. So very, very simple lines, simple work. So 10 lines, about 10 concepts. So there are 100 lines basically. And the 17th book is called Yeladi. 6 spices combined as medicine, which are Yelam, which is cardamom, Lavangam, cinnamon, Nakasaram, which is a Ceylon ironwood, part of that wood, Milag, black pepper, Tipili, long pepper, and Suk, dried ginger. So these are used as medicine. Like that, this text, the verses in this text, they contain 6 ideas each. So there are 81 such verses, Venpa verses. Again, this work is composed by Kani Medaviyar. As I mentioned, Kani Medaviyar is the only author who has composed 2 texts in this collection. So one is an Agam text, the Tinai Malai Nutri Aimbadu, another one is Yeladi. And the last text is called Kai Nilai, which can also be called as Aindinai Arubadu. We already saw there is an Aindinai Aimbadu, there is an Aindinai Edubadu. So this is 60 Venpa verses set in the 5 Tinais. So it can be called as Aindinai Arubadu also, Kai Nilai, it's called. But only 45 verses are retrieved now. So we have lost 15 verses. So they are different numbers for different Tinais available now. But originally they would have been 12 verses per Tinai. So there was 60 verses originally. So these are the 18 lesser texts, are also called as the post-Sangam literature. Sangam Maruviya Kala Noolgal. So they typically fall between 3rd century CE to the 6th century CE. Majority of them are didactic works, and beautiful Agam literature are also there. So some of the works are translated into English. So English translations are available. You can, if you are interested, you can read about them. Next, we'll see some sample. So a couple of verses from this Padinen Kirkanakku Noolgal as a sample to give you a taste of what are these texts look like. So I've chosen this again, my favorite verse from Naladiyar. This is the first verse in Naladiyar. So Naladiyar, as I said, is classified like somewhat structured like Tirukural. So it's structured into chapters containing 10 verses per chapter. This first chapter is called Selvam Layame. So it talks about temporary nature of wealth. So wealth is not permanent. So we should not think wealth is permanent and dedicate much bother to that. So wealth is not permanent. That's what a Selvam Layame. So this verse beautifully illustrates that idea that wealth is not permanent. So don't bother about wealth. Of course, for life we need wealth. So in Tirukural we have a Purulpal. So Thiruvalluvar extensively talks about earning. But the idea for earning is to spend that earning virtuously. So spend it for good things. Don't attach yourself to materialistic properties. That is the idea of Selvam Nilayame. So, of course, this work Naladiyar is composed by monks, ascetics, Jain monks. So that might be a bit stringent. The way they express the ideas might be a bit stringent. But they, of course, they are poets, so they beautifully express the idea. So, Selvam Nilayame, the temporary nature of wealth. So, this Venpa illustrates that. The Venpa goes like this. Arusuvai undi amarndu illal utta maru sigai நீக்கி உண்டாரும் வரிஞராய் சென்று இறப்பர் ஓர் இடத்து கூழ் எனின் செல்வம் ஒன்று உண்டாக வைக்கற்பாற்று அண்டு. So what he says is, imagine there is a very rich person, so who is served a very elaborate meal by his wife, Arusuvai undi. So meal which composes of all the 6 tastes. And according to Tamil tradition, there are 6 different tastes. So inipu, sweet, karam, hot, and sour, pulipu, uvarpu, bitterness, right? Kasapu is there. Uvarpu is sort of bitter. Another kasapu is another bitter. So kasapu, tuvarpu is there. 6 different taste is there, and any other taste is a combination of these 6 tastes, right? So the meals typically contain different dishes which belong to all these 6 different tastes. For example, a typical Tamil meal, there will be a sweet, there will be some payasam or chakare pongal, something like that. And there will be hot, there will be sambar, rasam, should be very hot. And there will be tayir, curd, which is tuvarpu. And there will be something like sundaikai, which will be for kasapu, the bitter taste, or bitter god is there. So that they'll put that, they will add that. And there's salt is there. So salt gives you tuvarpu. So different ingredients, different dishes contains different taste, and some of them contain combinations of taste. So a typical meal, especially a festive meal, a feast, should contain all the 6 tastes. So we typically say Arusuvai Unavu. There are even hotels which are named like Arusuvai Unavu, something like that. So Arusuvai Unavu is 6 favored meals, such elaborate dishes. So the person is so rich that his wife is serving him such an elaborate meal. This is a everyday meal for that person. He's a very rich person, so it is not something festival. This elaborate meal is a regular meal for that person. That is such a meal. There are so many dishes that, Marusigai Niki Undarum means there are so many dishes that the person is just eating one bite from each dish. And that itself is sufficient to quench his hunger. So so many dishes are there, such an elaborate meal the person is eating on a daily basis, on a regular basis. So such is the wealth, the poet says. But even such a person might one day lose all his wealth and go beg for an ordinary porridge. Cool, we say, cool, right? Kanji. So porridge. So he was so rich in one time that he had so many dishes in his everyday meal that he just simply takes one bite from all of them. He becomes full. But times might change. The wealth is not permanent, so he may lose all that wealth. The same person might be going house after house for begging for some little scoop of ordinary porridge. So that is the nature of wealth. So don't consider wealth as a permanent thing. That is what the poet says, expresses in this Venpa. Of course, it's the idea is expressed in a very stringent manner because these are all ascetics, Jain monks. But this is a very truthful thing that we should not attach ourselves with material things. That is, the didactic works are like that, right? So we should learn from that. And here I'm giving you one more example, one more sample verse. This I have chosen from the Agam song, the Kar Narpadu. So I already told you this is the Mullai Tinai. So Mullai is a married life. The husband has parted, saying that he will return when the rainy season starts. So the wife is waiting for him patiently until the rainy season. But when the rainy season starts, the husband is not coming back. She becomes worried. And her friend is Tori, her friend is consoling her. So she's saying, don't worry, only the clouds are forming now. The rainy season is not in full flesh. Your husband will come, don't worry. So that is the context of this song. So the friend is consoling the heroine, the wife. So the song goes like this. Kadum kadir nalgu ura, kar selvam eida, நெடுங்காடு நேர் சினை ஈன கொடுங்குழாய் இன்னே வருவர் நமர் என்று எழுழ்வானம் மின்னும் அவர் தூதுரைத்து. So what she says, the friend says is, see, the rainy season is beginning. The rainy season is going to start. Don't worry, your husband will come. So he is a man of his word. So he will definitely come back. And the rainy season is coming like a messenger from your husband. See, the rainy season is starting. So it indicates the return of your husband. It is like a messenger, messenger of your husband. Now the way the friend or the poet actually describes the change of season, that is beautiful here. So he says, Kadum Gadir Nalgura. So before the rainy season is summer season. So the poet says the summer season is gradually attaining poverty. Nalgurdal means poverty. So the summer season is attaining poverty. The rainy season is gaining wealth, he says. What he means by that? The summer season is coming to an end. The rainy season is going to start. But he says that in a very poetic way. He says summer season is becoming poor, rainy season is becoming rich. So don't worry. And all the plants which are supposed to blossom in the rainy season are starting to blossom. See, this is another very important thing in Sangam literature or Tamil literature, Tamil poets. They use nature as a calendar. See, this is a very unique thing. In general, ancient civilizations, they have used the stars, the sun, moon, the position of the planets, stars. So they use that to tell the time, right? As a calendar, as a clock. But Tamil people have seemed to use nature around them. See, different plants are there. They have a blooming cycle. So there are plants which bloom in the morning. There are plants which bloom in the night. There are plants which bloom in different seasons. There are plants which bloom once in a month. So Tamil people seem to have been very aware of these different plants, their blooming cycles, and they have used them as indicators for those seasons. So there are certain plants like Kondrai. So Kondrai plant will bloom during the rainy season. So when Kondrai plants blooms, then people will know that rainy season is starting. So they have Vengai, another plant which will be blooming in the summer season. So that plant blooms, then people know that it's summer. So like that, this is a unique thing for Tamil, I think. We couldn't find such references in any other literature. So she says whatever plant that is supposed to bloom during the rainy season, that is also blooming. So rainy season is coming and coming as a messenger for the return of your husband. So that's a very beautiful verse from Kar Narpadu. So that is as a sample for Padinenkilikkanakku Noolgal. Then we come to the epics, the twin epics. So we will talk about them in the next video. So see you in the next video. Thank you very much.